My name is Karan Bilimoria. I live in London and I was born in Hyderabad, India, and brought up in India before I came to the UK at the age of 19 for my higher education. I'm a Zoroastrian Parsi, one of the smallest communities in the world. There are barely 100,000 of us globally, and in India, a country of 1.4 billion people, there are fewer than 60,000 Parsis, and yet wherever you go in India, everyone knows who a Parsi is. And I'm very proud of our tiny community and our tiny religion, an ancient religion founded by the prophet Zarathustra in around 1500 BC. An ancient religion that was the religion of the Persian Empire, the largest of the ancient empires. Cyrus the Great, the emperor, was renowned for not only being a very powerful emperor, 45% of the population of the world was within the Persian Empire at that time, but in his reign, around 530 BC, there was the Cyrus Cylinder, the first document of human rights in the world. It is actually, to this day, in the British Museum. And this document speaks of Cyrus as an emperor, but it speaks of his being a magnanimous ruler. And that is the essence of it. There are many examples of his magnanimity, but one in particular is when he allowed the Jews in Egypt to go back to their homeland, recognized by the Jewish community in the Torah. So with this backdrop, this ancient religion, this ancient people left Persia, what is today Iran, and came and settled in India over 1,000 years ago. The legend has it that the Indian ruler on the coast of Gujarat, where the Parsis sought refuge, said, "I'm sorry, we have no room for you." And the leader of the Parsis asked for a glass of milk to be filled to the brim, asked for a teaspoon of sugar, and gently immersed the sugar in the milk and stirred it without spilling a drop. And he said to the ruler, "We will be like the sugar. We will sweeten your people and your kingdom." And the Parsis were allowed to settle. And the rest, as they say, is history. This tiny community has contributed so much to India in every field, whether it's lawyers, accountants, the armed forces, the legal community, entrepreneurs, business people, sportsmen and women. In every field, the Parsis have excelled. But what has set them apart, what has been appreciated about them, is expressed so well by Mahatma Gandhi, who said, "Parsis in numbers beneath contempt, in contribution beyond compare." And he said, "Parsi, thy name is charity." And the Zoroastrian Parsi have always been renowned for not just looking after our own, but for putting back in the wider community. And I could give you example after example. The latest news just now is Air India, the national airline of India, has now been privatized and has been bought by the Tata Group, a Parsi, Zoroastrian Parsi company. The Tatas founded Air India over 70 years ago, and now, today, they are back to owning it. And the rejoicing that will take place will be from everyone, not just the consumers, but also the employees of Air India who know that they will be treated fairly. And that has been the reputation. Jamshedji Tata, who founded the Tata Empire, built a steelworks in what was then Bihar in northeast India. And the chief British civil servant at the time said, "Oh, if he produces any steel, I will eat every rail that is produced from there." Well, he had to eat his words, because Tata Steel to this day is one of the largest steel manufacturers in the world, and in fact owns British Steel. And right from the beginning, he set up a charitable trust. To this day, Tata Sons, 2/3 is owned by the charitable trust. 2/3 of the profits are distributed to charities. Charities for the benefit of the whole of the UK, whole of India. I, for example, am proud to be a Tatar scholar when I came to study in the UK. So that sense of charity, right now, the world is coming out of a pandemic, a global pandemic that affected the whole world, 18 months. And yet within that, the biggest vaccine manufacturer in the world, before the pandemic, the Serum Institute of India, is owned by Cyrus and Adar Poonawalla, Zoroastrian Parsis. 2/3 of children born on this planet are vaccinated by their vaccines. They have saved tens of millions of lives by producing affordable vaccines. And similarly, with the COVID vaccine, we're very proud in the UK that Oxford University and AstraZeneca, a British-Swedish company, together produced the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine. And AstraZeneca is headquartered in Cambridge. And they partnered from the beginning with the Serum Institute of India to produce 1 billion doses. And as we speak, almost 1 billion of those doses have been produced in barely 1 year, less than 1 year since the production started, at a very affordable cost, a vaccine for the world. And when I started my own business, Cobra Beer, 3 decades ago in the UK, without anyone telling me, we started putting back into the community. We have the Cobra Foundation. We help charities from Macmillan's Cancer to the Armed Forces charities to WaterAid with clean water and sanitation, saving lives in South Asia. It is part of our DNA to be magnanimous and to put back into the community. My father, the late General Bilimoria, was Commander-in-Chief of the Central Indian Army with 350,000 troops under his command. And people were happy under his command because not only was he a good soldier, but he was a fair leader, a leader who was a soldier who his troops absolutely loved. And I could give you example when he was in battle, when he would refuse an order if it meant he would lose lives of his men, and he would disobey and say, I will do this later because I need to save lives, and he would achieve the objective in a later time, but saving lives. If we look at my other roles, I sit in the House of Lords. For 15 years, I've been an independent crossbench peer. And the first 3 parliamentarians in Westminster were all 3 Zoroastrian Parsis going back to 1892. And I'm proud to be the first peer, the first member of the House of Lords from the Zoroastrian Parsi community. The Zoroastrian community is also renowned for its compassion. There is an ethos, the tenets of the religion, good thoughts, good words, good deeds. And when I welcomed the Archbishop of Canterbury, Rowan Williams, to the Zoroastrian Centre in Harrow a few years ago, I welcomed him in my speech, and then he started his speech and said, Lord Bilimoria has used the word integrity twice, and the Zoroastrian community is renowned for its integrity. And he said the word integrity comes from the Latin and Greek words integra and integrum, which mean wholeness. You cannot practice integrity if you're fragmented in front of the light. You can only practice integrity if you're complete and whole. And I've never forgotten that. And finally, the last word that is very important is trust. And one of my professors at Harvard Business School, Francis Fry, in a lecture described trust as being a triangle of authenticity, logic, and empathy. And the Zoroastrian community and the Parsis have always engendered trust, because we are authentic, we have the capability to deliver, and there is the empathy. So to conclude, we are a religion, a community that believes in not just what you do, but how you do it. Not just being the best in the world, trying to be the best in the world, but being the best for the world. And so it's compassion, integrity, trust. And with that, I'm very proud of our tiny, tiny